Now, I am here to talk to you about mental health and what it was like being a teenage alcoholic who turned into a grown-up person with mental health issues, and how they're connected, what things we can do to help kids today so that they have good mental health, and what we can do to change some of the stigma that there is around mental health. So let me begin at the beginning. I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio. I was the oldest of 5 adopted children. We were 2 international adoptions to a Caucasian family. I had 3 Caucasian brothers, and my sister is from Vietnam. I was born in Tijuana, Mexico in 1972. I was adopted when I was 8 weeks old, and after the adoption, I was in Cincinnati and pretty much grew up and stayed there until I was out of college. To go into the earliest parts of my mental health issues, I have to really start at the very beginning, which is being adopted and how that can affect a kid growing up. A kid growing up can figure out that they are different from their parents way before the adoption discussion is had. So there is something about knowing you're different from the very start in a lot of our lives. I'm going to talk from my personal experience. I always felt like I was somewhat different from everybody. And then when I found out I was adopted and what adopted meant and what race meant, those things became more complicated and complex. But growing up brown with a brown sister, a white brother, and 2 white parents, we had it pretty normal in Ohio in the beginning. People did see us and think we were very different whenever we were around. But the real issue that started in my life with the mental health journey was something that happened when I was 5 years old, and that was the death of my brother. He was 4 years old. His name was Ricky. And Ricky got the chicken pox, the same as I had had chicken pox a couple weeks before, and somehow became affected by a complication of chicken pox known as Rice syndrome. And his organs gave out within 48 hours. He was in the hospital for 2 days and just never made it out. And so at age 5, I had to be confronted with the reality of death and what death was and how death can just come and make its presence known and mess up your life. So at age 5, I was told that my brother went to heaven and I would never see him again. I was told a lot of things that were not very helpful to explain my brother's death. Just different things like the angels needed him, or he was too good for earth, so he had to go to heaven. Yeah, when you're 5 years old and people are telling you these things, they don't really help with what you're going through as a young child. My brain, I believe, when the death occurred, went into its own shutdown mode. And I have little to no memory of the events after the funeral. I remember the funeral in some pretty graphic details. Remember having an open casket, which is something, again, 5-year-olds should not be around open caskets. Don't do it. Please don't do that. But yes, age 5, my brain just decided it was not ready to deal with what was going on, and I went into my own fantasy world. And during this time, I was told by both parents that I acted very normal, as if nothing had happened normal. And my mom said, "Oh, you just be playing and dancing and doing cartwheels just like you know, everything was normal, which to me was a big sign that things are not going well. But in 1978, child psychiatry really wasn't a thing. So I was told that I was resilient and that I would be fine. I was too young to have it affect me, and that I was going to bounce back and just be a normal, happy child. I was just basically told I was too young for this to affect my brain. Or it would affect my brain, but I'd be able to bounce back. Now, as most people can tell you who've gone through the loss of a sibling, that kind of death is pretty heavy duty. And having that death be the first and only experience that you've had of death when you're kindergarten age is a lot to go through. And I really don't blame anybody that there were no attempts for me to be in therapy after this happened, because it was so long ago that it wasn't the norm. People were concerned with my parents, which I completely understand too. My parents were a mess. They just had their world fall apart. And they did their best to deal with the two kids that were still there. And my two brothers were adopted after Ricky died. And I believe that was 1979 and 1981, and they were born. So those two brothers are the brothers that I have grown up with. Unfortunately, they didn't get to know Ricky. Heather, my sister, really didn't get to know him because she was 2 years old when he died. I don't know if she really remembers him or not, but either way, I know that I remembered him very well, and I just did not know how to deal with this death thing that I was being told I had to learn about real fast and accept that this is just how it was. I was about 11 years old when I started having real feelings of anger towards the world, a general sense of rebellion and not fitting in, and having a depression inside me that I had had since I was in kindergarten that I didn't know was a depression. I didn't have the words to say I'm depressed. I didn't really know what that meant. I didn't know how to vocalize most of the things I was going through. Went through a lot of racism when I was growing up in Ohio. That was extremely hard too. But I didn't know how to take that experience to my Caucasian parents and feel that they would understand. So there were a lot of blocks that I had growing up that I could have maybe handled better if they had more understanding about childhood trauma. But like I said, in 1978, I don't even know that the words childhood trauma existed, or they sure didn't exist in my world. My world was resiliency, and you're doing so good and you're going to grow up just fine. If you know me, you know I didn't end up growing up to be just fine. I've had a lifelong deal with several mental illnesses. I have 4 diagnoses, but I will get to those as we get more into the story. I'm going to take a sip of coffee real quick. I need the coffee because I need the dopamine. Alrighty, so we are now at age 11, 12, 13, and that's when the dam broke. That is when all of my angry emotions, everything that I felt inside about the world being wrong, just burst forward, and I became one angry, resentful, hurt mess. And it was at this age that I did start searching for things to make me feel better because I knew I didn't feel like a normal person. I knew that what I felt inside was something different and something that I didn't like, and I wanted it to go away. I just felt small. I somehow felt insignificant, and I felt hopeless. And when you're going through puberty and these are the feelings that are coming out from your repressed depression, it becomes a huge mess. So I began acting out. I was sneaking out of hotels in Florida when we were on vacation to go cruising along the strip in Key West and go into the famous bars and hang out and get people to buy me alcohol and just hang out with people who were 10 years older than me because somehow I had a personality that people let in bars. So that's what I did. Experimented with drinking very early. I was probably 12 when I first snuck into a very famous bar in Key West and was drinking cherry daiquiris and beer that I didn't pay for, and had military people who were hanging out at the bars buying me drinks because I was just this fun person hanging out, and I had braces and I was 13 at the time, but somehow I was in this bar being pretty catered to. And it, when I discovered I could do that, there was really no going back. I found the trouble that I wanted to get into, and I started getting into that trouble. As my high school years went forward, I did start high school at 13. I skipped 8th grade. I was part of that generation that still did grade skipping. I don't know if they really do it anymore because I don't think it's a great idea for kids to skip the time they need to mature in middle school. But at 13, I was in high school. At 13, I was trying very hard to be just like the popular girls. I was trying very hard to be accepted and part of the norm and just fit in, which I never had fit in. And so high school was my big chance to start over and fit in perfectly from day one. But as we know, that didn't happen either. I was a girl straight out of 7th grade going into freshman year. I, again, not white. From an adopted family where my father was in radio and was pretty well known in the city we were living in. So I pretty much had people watching me to see what would happen from the very start. And high school was a lot. It was growing up way too fast for me at that age. Trying, again, like I said, trying to be popular, trying to have the right pair of Guess jeans and the right Forenza sweater and Esprit de Corps t-shirt or whatever it was that was on the cover of 17 magazine. That's what I was trying to do. And let me tell you that I failed miserably because everything I did was just a little bit below acceptable, fashionable. All the gold I got was shoplifted from kids' stores. It's all fake gold. My Reebok aerobic shoes that all the girls had. I did a shoebox switch and shoplifted those shoes to keep up with the popular girls. So my Reeboks were stolen. I had the knockoff brand for most every article of clothing I had. So I was not getting Guess jeans. I was not getting Forenza sweaters. I was getting what my mom got at JCPenney outlet, which was fine, but I still was trying to fake it, trying to fake my way through. And when you do that and you fall into the I'm going to be like Susie Popular, it's very easy to see who's not genuine and who is really trying to fake the fake. And I tried to fake the fake. I wanted acceptance. And then, I got it for the most part, but it wasn't me. It wasn't the real me. It was who I thought I had to be popular. And I wasn't really popular either. I mean, I wasn't unpopular, but I was definitely not part of the in crowd. Eventually this just made me angry. I was tired of trying to fit in and not fitting in. I was tired of having boys date or dump me for girls who were prettier and more cool. And I realized that the facade that I had was not me. And I really kind of was this angry, rebellious girl underneath it all who snuck out of hotels by climbing out of balcony windows and hanging out on the streets of Key West. In the 80s, that kid wanted to come out more, and that kid did come out more. I discovered alternative music. Again, being the 80s, alternative music meant Depeche Mode, Susie and the Banshees, Lords of the New Church. Gosh, I could name all the early ones, but you get the gist. Early alt rock music, the stuff that was on 120 Minutes was my jam. And as I discovered more and more of this music, I discovered angrier and angrier versions of this music, and eventually became a full-on punk rocker. And it was the most freeing, wonderful, I don't give a poop about what you think about me anymore. I'm going to tease my hair out to here like Robert Smith does and have bright red lipstick like Robert Smith does. And I'm going to dress in all black and torn up fishnets and combat boots. And I'm going to be the angry, rebellious person that I really was. And my depression got worse, and I wasn't really having anxiety yet, but I was definitely, I was definitely acting out my OCD tendencies. My OCD diagnosis did not come for many years, but definitely had the obsessive thoughts and the compulsive behaviors that come with obsessive compulsive disorder. I was first taken to therapy when I was 15 by my parents because of the acting out. Was not diagnosed with depression at this point. I don't even think I had a diagnosis given to me. I was just going to talk therapy and talking about how much I did not like the world and how full of BS I thought religion was, and, just the normal things that a teenager would tell a psychiatrist. Wasn't really honest about my trauma. I remember saying that I didn't think that my brother's death affected me. I was too young. I was resilient and I bounced back, and I don't think it affected me, doctor. And that was pretty much the stance I took until I had my first major breakdown when I was 23. But I went through high school self-medicating depression and self-medicating my OCD. A lot of beer, a lot of Wild Irish Rose, just cheap bum wine, drinking in the woods, smoking pot in the woods, going to punk rock concerts and getting drunk in the parking lot beforehand. That was pretty much my high school years. Being punk rock, having fun, drinking away the bad feelings that I had, drinking away the feeling I had about never fitting in, but who cares now? Discovered pills, just going through my parents' pills or taking pills that friends gave me that I were told, hey, this one is a Percocet. Okay, cool, I'll take a Percocet. I really didn't even know what I was doing half the time, but, I just wanted to rebel. That's how you rebelled. Anyway, this is the end of part 1. I'm going to go ahead and stop it here.